Hey everybody, welcome back to Down the Shore Homestead. And if this is your first time here, thanks for coming down the shore. So today, a friend of mine asked me to talk more about the chickens that we have. And so in this video, I'm going to discuss why we got our chickens, how many we purchased, what we do daily, what we do weekly, and what we do a couple times a year. I'll also talk about how much the feed price is for the chickens so that you can decide whether it's worth you getting your own chickens in your backyard to make up the difference in price that you pay for eggs in the store. And a little spoiler alert, it's not cheaper to raise your own chickens, but it's definitely much healthier. So stick around, and as we say around here, let's go down the shore. So thanks for sticking with me. If you want to learn all about chickens, this is the place to be. I'm going to start off with when we decided to get chickens, they were going to be our pets. My sister-in-law had a single chicken when I first met my husband, and they called her Mama Chicken, and she hung out in the backyard, and she was a pet basically, and unfortunately, she passed away. So my husband always wanted a pet chicken because of that. So when we went to go get chickens, we found out that you have to get at least 3, if not more, because of the chicken pecking order. I've talked about this in a short that I've had recently. Well, actually, it's been a little while now. But anyways, pecking order is basically you have the queen of the flock, and it works its way down, and the lowest one gets picked on the most. So you need more chickens so that one single chicken at the bottom isn't going to get pecked all the time. You need to spread it out. So we ended up with 4 because we liked the 4 breeds that we got. When we went to go get our chicks, we got them as babies. And that is a lot of work. You have to keep the chicks confined. We bought a brooder box from our breeder so that it would be easier because it came with everything we needed. It came with the box, it came with water, feeder. And then we just had to get the pine shavings to put in the bottom of the box, and it had a cover over it as well so they couldn't jump out. And we kept them in our den, and they get very, very dusty as they get older. And we got them in like March, I believe. So we couldn't put them outside until it was at least, I believe, 50 or 60 degrees out. I'll have to put it up on the screen here to let you know when I'm recording the video on the size and ages of the chickens and the temperature that it needs to be to get them outside, because they can't be outside in the cold because they're babies, you know. So we kept them in our office, den, whatever, and we put plastic tarps up around them to contain the dust that they were creating as they got older. A lot of people keep them in their basements, they keep them in their garages, but they heat the basement and garage so that the chickens don't get cold. Now you still have to have a heater inside the breeder. We used and I don't have it anymore because I sold it because we're never raising babies again. So we had a plate that stood on little feet, and we laid it flat so the baby chicks could go under it and stay warm, but then they could come out if they got too warm when they were little babies. And then we stood it up just to keep the whole breeder warm as they got older and wouldn't fit underneath the heating plate. A lot of people use the heaters, the heat lights. I didn't like those because those can have fire. I'm getting all tongue tied here. They can be a fire hazard. So if you're super careful, you can get the heating lamps to put on the chicks. But I preferred the plate much better than the light bulb because it was inside our house. Now, if you want to put it in a garage or something and you want to use that, that's fine. But to me, the heat plate for inside the house was much better. What else? So we got 4 chickens. We named them. They were going to be our pets. We set up their coop. Well, we ordered their coop before we got the chickens, and we put it together. And then this covered run that you see here that I'm in, let me show you. So basically, can't really see here. They come out. See how she's going in there? They come out of that door, and we put an automatic door on that coop. So in the morning, they can come out on their own. And this is their dusting bathing area under here that I have to rake out because it's now the weekend and I'm going to have to do that. But this is covered with chicken wire all the way around. And then we put this door on here that my husband made out of scrap metal that we had so that they can go into their bigger run, which, as you can see, this is one area that they can get into, and then they can go all the way down the run, and it's all covered, and we have netting above to keep the hawks away from them. And if you see the pallets there at the end, that is because the chickens turn everything into this, because they peck at the ground and they pull up all the roots and they destroy any vegetation that's in the area. So I put pallets down so that my microphone's gonna on my phone's gonna fall. I put the pallets down so that they can't pull up the roots and the grass will still come through and they can chew that as they wish in the summertime when it grows. Now it's wintertime, so there's no grass right now. So I give them extra treats. So this covered run was, and I'm sorry, this video might be a little long, but it's definitely worth it because I talk about a lot more here in a minute. So when we purchased our house, there was an old, on the other side of this shed, there was an old platform, and they had started to build this shed, and it was only a frame. So we took the frame apart and we made this covered run, and then we put I don't know if you can see these. This is the aluminum roofing that you can get. We put that up above and we did a lean-to. So I'll show you out there in a minute the whole setup. So the rain hits the top and rolls off and comes down on the other side. So this entire area pretty much stays warm, stays dry, not warm, stays dry. And the snow pretty much stays out of here. Now, if we get snow, which is not that often, I can put up tarps around the bottom just to keep the bottom area free of snow. But the girls don't mind the snow. They really don't. They like to go out and play in the snow when it does snow. So we don't really worry about it that much, as long as their dust bathing area underneath the coop is nice and dry so that they can dust bathe when they want. That's all we really care about in the winter. So we built the coop. We built this covered run. We got our chicks. We raised them inside when they were old enough to come outside. We put them in their coop. And out of the 4, we only have 2 of those left. So this is when chicken math comes into play. When your chickens get too old and they stop laying, a lot of people will cull them and then eat them. We can't do that. I've talked about this before. We take them to a vet and have them euthanized and bury them in the backyard. Unfortunately, the first one that passed, we didn't do that, but I don't want to talk about that. It's kind of depressing. So any future chicks that pass will get taken to the vet, euthanized, and buried out back. I am going to try and learn how to cull the newer chickens that we're not really attached to, because that is something that we have to get used to doing, because the newer chicks are technically not our pets. They produce food for us. And that's the way you have to look at it if you're going to keep chickens for a long time. Don't treat them like pets if you're going to be culling them, because it makes it so much harder when you're attached to them. You have to treat them like they're food. You have to be nice to them, and they can kind of be your pets, but you have to think about the fact that they're your food. They're not really a dog or a cat pet. So, like Rocco here. Hey, buddy. Come here. He's got chicken feathers on his nose because he's searching around for chicken poop. No eating chicken poop. So Rocco, actually, let's talk about dogs and chicks. So the chicks are in their dust bathing area, and he's leaving them alone. And he's wearing his nice spoiled sweater today. His sweater because he's spoiled. So he pretty much leaves the chicks alone because he's seen them as his chicks since he was brought in to our homestead. He was a puppy, and we brought him over to the covered area and let him meet the chickens when he was a baby. And he's been around the chicks ever since. So we keep him out here every day with them. Make sure he knows, don't chase the chickies. Those are your chickies. You got to protect the chickies. And he's getting cold, so I'm going to go put him in the house because he's shivering, even though he's got his sweater on. So I'll be right back. Okay, so Rocco's in the house getting warm. So he knows that these are his chickens and that he needs to protect them. And sometimes if I'm trying to get them back in the coop and I have treats and they won't come, he'll get behind them and he'll herd them into the covered run here so that I can close that door and they'll stay inside for me. So he helps with that. Now, I will say, if I let him outside and I'm not out with him and the girls are out free ranging, he will chase them. He likes to play with them. So we don't let him be out here alone with the girls if we're not outside. So that's something to keep in mind. It depends on your dog's breed, but if you show them when they're puppies and you monitor them when they are engaging with the chickens and you train them, they, for the most part, will leave them alone. Now, Rocco has been outside with these guys for, I think it was like 15, 20 minutes, and I forgot the chickens were out. And then when I realized it, I was like, oh my gosh, let me run outside. And he had one of them cornered, but he didn't do anything to her. He was just kind of like pulling at her feathers a little bit, which made me upset. And he got in trouble, but the chicken was fine. She only lost like 4 feathers or something like that. So got to keep an eye on the dog and the chicks when they're together. Don't let them be by themselves. So we got our chicks, we raised them. Now, we also got the chicken door, and we had to modify that coop door in order for that chicken door to work. But basically, it opens at sunrise and closes at sunset. So the girls just instinctively know to go in there when it starts to get dusk, and then the door closes after they're in there. And then in the morning, it opens up and they come right out, and they usually go to their water and their food. Now, you're not supposed to put water or food in their coop. I don't in the summer, but I do put feed in the coop in the winter because when they eat, their crop heats up like a little heater and it helps keep them warm. So even though they're on the roost bar and they're all nestled together, and that coop will stay about 35 degrees with them all in there because it's so small, that if they get cold, they can at least nibble on some food to warm them up a little bit more. So, and they have eaten some of it. Not usually on really cold days, they'll eat some of it at night, but for the most part, they ended up just knocking it over, really. But I still put it in there just in case. And then, so every day they'll come out on their own, and we have the hanging feeder in this covered area, basically because I can't always get out here right away to feed them. A lot of people just give them a scoop a day and that's it. Well, our feeder, I usually put about 3 days worth of food in there. And then on that 3rd day, I'll come fill it again at night when I'm done work. So I know they always have food. They do spill a lot, but it's all right. It's what it is, what it is. They'll eat it eventually. If like their feeder gets empty, they'll start eating off the ground. It's no big deal. It's not bad for them. It can create pests. Well, it can attract pests. And we had a problem with a rat once, which we don't have problems with rats anymore because they were coming from underneath the shed next to me. And so we put hardware cloth down and some bricks and rocks to keep them from coming up underneath. And I forgot to say that earlier. I think this entire covered run and the coop has about 2 feet, maybe, 2 feet of hardware cloth all the way around the perimeter, and then it goes down 2 feet over the ground so that something can't dig up underneath and come through, because it's 2 feet out from the edge. So 2 feet up and then goes 2 feet out. And that keeps this pretty secure. So we can actually close this covered run and leave this chicken door working and be gone for like 3 days if we wanted to. And the chicks can come out, eat, drink, do what they want to do in this covered area and go back in the coop at night. And they don't mind it at all. We've done it a few times to them and they seem fine. Every day they come out on their own. And then when I can, I come out and I refresh their water. Now in the summertime, there's a hose hooked up. It's still hooked up because it gets warm and cold. So I just turn off the water and drain the hose. So I pretty much leave this hose out here all year. And it seems to do okay. Doesn't seem to be causing any problems to the hose. It could be bad, but it's not so far because, you know, it's not that cold here in Jersey. So I'll turn, the hose is on a timer and they get fresh water into this bowl every couple hours in the summer. So that keeps it flushed out every single day because I run it longer than it needs to so that it will flush what's in there out and then refill it with, you know, fresh water. Now in the winter, when I have to turn the water off and let the hose drain out, I will dump the water, wash it out once a week. Well, and I do that in the summer too. Once a week, I come out and I wash the bowl. I empty out the water, wash the bowl, rinse it out, and put fresh water in once a week. Every day in the summer, we got it on timer and they get fresh water that way. But in the winter, when it's cold, I have a gallon waterer in the kitchen. It's an old iced tea container. And I fill that up the night before I give it, well, I fill it up 24 hours before they need it because it has chlorine in it and I don't want them getting chlorine. So the chlorine will flush out, will evaporate after 24 hours. Or I could put some Prime Stress Coat cleaner in it from the fish tank if I need it right now. It's 2 drops per gallon and it gets rid of all the chlorine in your water. It's pretty awesome. I have a short on that if you want to look for it. Actually, I can put it in the description below because I don't think these, if you add a short to here, I don't think it's been working lately. So I'll put it in the description below. So I refresh their water every day, whether it's by hand, come out, dump it out, wipe it out, put fresh in, which I need to do today. I check their feeder, make sure they have food because, you know, sometimes I forget. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys need food. So I refresh their water. I make sure they have food. I also make sure they have these. These are oyster shells, and they need these for calcium. Now, I know some people just give their chicks their eggs, their eggshells, and that's fine. But I use my eggshells for my garden, and there's a special way that you have to do that in order for your garden to accept, well, in order for your garden plants to be able to accept the calcium from those eggshells. And I compost a lot and stuff, so saving eggshells is just, I already have enough going on with that. So I give them these. It's easier. I buy a big 50-pound bag at my local feed. So the video stopped recording for a second here. So anyways, I buy a 50-pound bag of the oyster shells for the chicks, and they get them, well, they'll eat them whenever they need. They feel they need to, or they want them. And that makes their shells stay hard, and it gives them a lot of calcium. Well, the calcium is to make the shells hard. Now, I also get my feed from a local farm, and I love it because it's non-GMO, and she adds all kinds of extra herbs to the feed, like oregano and things like that to help them throughout the winter. And then I get my pine shavings for the bottom of the coop. So in the coop, I put down pine shavings. Oh, you can't see. Sorry. Come over here. So in the coop, I can't see. Oh, here we go. So these are pine shavings that I put in the bottom of the coop. And there's their bowl of food. And there's their nesting, their roost. And in the nesting boxes, there is straw. So I get those from a local feed store. It's not nationwide, I don't believe. I think there's only 2 of them in our area. So I get that every couple months, I think. because it's a big bale of pine shavings and a big bale of straw. So I keep those in some galvanized trash cans covered with a tarp just to make sure that no water leaks into the lid and gets it all wet, because that's happened to me in the past. So there's 2 cans to hold the straw in and 1 can to hold the pine shavings in. And my husband gets mad at me because it just barely fits, but it does fit. And then I have a rubber glove in there for when I clean out the coop to pick up all the poop and stuff out. And then I compost all of that. And the oyster shavings are also in another galvanized trash can. So, now when we first got the chicks, we played around with different feeders. We had a PVC pipe feeder that people make. That didn't really work that good because mice and rat or possums or whatever rabbits can come in here and eat out of that because it was so low for the chickens to be able to get to, but other animals could as well. So we got rid of those. We've tried multiple feed hanger, multiple, yeah, I'll get it right here. Feeders. This is a hanging feeder that we got, and I love this one the best. And yes, it's dirty, but it's nice and clean inside. And here's their food. And you can see that they get it all over the ground, but that's okay. So, and this is, somebody was throwing this coop away up the street. So I completely sanitized it and then repainted it. And the girls just use that to kind of hang out in whenever they want. I mean, they don't really lay eggs or anything in here. And it's not very secure because, it's not very warm because it's, as you can see there, one of the doors is just, it's just a screen. So this coop doesn't have a screen, so it's nice and warm. But it was just to give them some extra space because, yeah, they didn't have a lot of space in their coop when we were up to 5 chicks. And even though this coop says it's meant for 6, no, it's not. It's meant for 5 because they were cramped in there. One of them actually slept in the nesting box and they're not supposed to. So, and waterers. So this waterer, it's hard to see in the camera when you're doing it this way. But anyways, this is a heated dog bowl. So as you can see, it's plugged in right there, and then it's plugged into a plug over there. And yeah, I got to clean it out today. I haven't done that yet today. But that waterer works the best because we've had the stand-up red waterers, and you have to untwist. Here, let me put this back like this for a second so I can use my hand. The big red waterers on the bottom with the white on top, you have to twist those. And my husband, I have a bad back. And sometimes it flares up really bad and I can't carry that thing out here. So he would bring it out. Well, you fill it up upside down, you put the lid on, and then you have to flip it over once you get out here. And he got ticked off a few times because when he flipped it over, the bottom fell off and all the water came out and he got soaking wet. And he's like, I hate this waterer. And it was a heated water, had a plug just like this. But he got fed up with that. So I started looking around, and we had bought a black, like they made a bowl out of old tires. It was kind of rubbery. And we used that for a little while, but I felt like there was too many chemicals in it that might have been leaching into the water. So I was like, nah, this is no good. So that is a BPA-free dog bowl that you can plug in. And I love it. I got it from Tractor Supply. I'll put it in the description below if I can find it again, because it's been a while since I bought that heated bowl. But if you can't find this specific one, just look for a heated dog bowl. And I got it from Tractor Supply. And no, I'm not affiliated. That's where I got it. So, and by the way, I've been meaning to make this video for a while, but it was freezing and windy, and I couldn't make it because it was just too windy. The cold I could have handled, but it was too windy. You wouldn't be able to hear what I was saying. So you need to worry about the coop for shelter, how you're going to feed them, how you're going to water them, and how you're going to protect them. So I've talked about the coop, the run, the covered run, and then the main run. Now, I know a lot of people get these chicks and they get these little coops and these little run underneath, and they think that's good. That is not good. That little run and that little coop is not meant, they're not meant to live like that. To me, that's inhumane. I'm sorry. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. You can leave my channel. It doesn't bother me, because I think that that's just inhumane. So that's why we have the coop, the dust bath underneath, the covered run, and we try to give them as much of a long run as we possibly could. And we cover it with fine mesh so that the hawks can't come down and get them during the day. Because we do have hawks. We're technically in like a very congested area with like all these major stores and stuff, but not 5 minutes away. We can be in the middle of the woods. So there are a lot of hawks. But we wanted them to have enough room to be able to go around if they couldn't free range, because I can't always be out here for like an hour or so watching them while they free range. So this way they can still kind of free range, but I don't have to worry about the hawks. So I will say, let's see, we did coop, waterer, feeder, run for protection. And the protection basically is, make sure that no animals can get to them at night when they're sleeping or during the day. So that's why I said we have this long run that's covered. Now, I will say that some of it's not covered right now because we redid our fence and some of the top fencing came off and we have to re-put it back up. But it's not enough. Like, they could literally run far enough to get away from a hawk, hopefully, and not get taken by a hawk. So I'm pretty confident that they're out here okay by themselves while they're in the run. So protection. Oh, and not only protection from animals, but you need to have protection from the elements. So make sure they're warm, make sure they're dry, clean out their coop. Oh, that's another thing I do. So sorry, I'm all over the place. But basically, daily work would be, if you don't have a door to let them out on their own, you got to come out and let your chickens out. And then you have to clean their waterer and give them feed. And then at night, if you don't have the door, you're going to have to come back out. Well, you're going to have to collect the eggs at some point during that day. You shouldn't let the eggs sit, because you may get an egg eater if you let them sit too long. I'm pretty lucky. None of mine eat eggs. And if you get an egg eater, all you have to do is put a golf ball, or you can go purchase an egg that looks fake, that's ceramic, to prevent them from wanting to eat the eggs. But you're going to collect the eggs sometime during the day, and then at night you're going to come, make sure you put them in they'll go into the coop on their own for the most part, and then shut the door. So that's a daily chores. Weekly chores are, I usually do this on Saturday or Sunday, depends on what we got going on, but once a week I will come out and I will scoop out any of the poop. I do deep litter. Forgot to say this, I do a deep litter method. A deep litter method is basically you put down a layer of, I don't know exactly what other people do, but this is how I do it. I put down a layer of pine shavings. Well, sorry, back up a little bit. I buy something called First Saturday Lime. There's another thing, I can't think what most people use. I'll put it up here, what it's called. I always pronounce it wrong anyway, so I'll put it right here and you guys can read it. But that is another substance that you can use to keep bugs and things like that, mites, out of your chicken coop. So basically I buy what's called First Saturday Lime. Comes every month if I want, or I can skip it if I want. It's a subscription, but you can skip it, and it's cheap. It's like 25 bucks or something like that, and it does this whole area. It's awesome. And I've never had a problem with mites or bugs in my coop. So basically I put down like a 2-inch layer all down the bottom of the coop base. Then I put down their pine shavings. And then in the nesting boxes on top of the pine shavings, I put a little bit of straw for them to lay eggs in. And even in the winter, I have straw in there because they're not laying right now because the daylight is short. And that's another thing. Chickens will stop laying in the winter when they're a little bit older. First year, second year, you might get some eggs. But third year and beyond, you probably won't get eggs in the winter because they're using that to keep themselves, they're using the nutrients to keep themselves warm, not lay eggs. Well, not produce eggs. And that's fine with me. We're okay with that. You can do light substitution in your coop to make the chickens lay eggs, but to me that's just wrong. It's nature's way of saying take a break, so we let them take a break. So we put down the first layer, and then as I clean out their coop weekly, like I just take the clumps of poop out and I put that in our compost. I'll add more pine shavings on top and refresh the straw if needed. And I keep adding pine shavings until spring. So that's what I do weekly is clean their coop, wash out their bowl, and wash out their feeder, and then refill everything. So couple times a year is when I use the Saturday lime. So that's why I said you can skip it, because I do the deep litter method in the winter, I don't need to put that lime down every month because I'm cleaning out, I'm not completely emptying out the coop. I'm only emptying out the coop a couple times a year. So when I empty out the coop, I put the Saturday lime down, and then weekly I just add fresh pine shavings and straw when needed. And then in the spring, right before it's, well, pretty much when it starts to warm up, I'll empty out the whole coop, put fresh first Saturday lime down, and just put a thin layer of the pine shavings and straw in there. And I pretty much start that deep litter method all over again. If it gets really dirty throughout the summer, I will just do another complete coop clean. But for the most part, I don't have to do it again until like fall. Like I said, 2-3 times a year, because we do that deep litter method, we don't have to completely empty out the coop every week. I know a lot of people do that, but to me, that's just way too much work and it's unnecessary. If you have the first Saturday lime down, or the, I forget what it's called, Damacious earth or something like that. Anyways, if you have that down first, it'll keep the bugs out. So you don't need to completely clean out the coop. You just have to clean out the dirty parts of the coop. And you have to make sure that you clean their bowls and their feeder at least once a week. And oh, I'm sorry, there's one more thing. Underneath the coop in their dust bathing area, I have to rake that out. And I rake out this covered area just to get it nice, just to get rid of all the extra feathers and poop or anything like that out. So they have a clean dust bathing area once a week. And this covered run area is clean once a week. Now the big run area, that's free for all. We don't mess with that at all. They can do whatever they want out there, and we don't clean it. Now I will rake it out if there's leaves that fall in there, but for the most part, the leaves don't really land in there because of the covered net we have for the hawks. So we have to knock the leaves off of that into the yard area so that we can collect the leaves that way. But that's pretty much it. I mean, we have the extra coop that we got for free for them to go into, but you really only need one coop. And I believe it's I'll put it up here just in case I'm wrong, but I believe it's 2 square feet, if not 4 square feet per chicken for your coop. Now, when we build this coop over here that I'm going to build, it's going to be bigger than what we need because I want to add chicks. So that's where your chicken math comes in. Once your oldest stops laying eggs, you need to get another chick to replace that chick, well, that hen, so that you continue to get eggs. So all 4 of our chicks, well, our hens, because they're older, are about 3, I think they're 3 years old now, so they're starting to like not lay in the winter, and they don't lay as often in the summer even. So this spring, we're going to have to get some new hens, but I don't want to get baby chicks. I want to get hens because I'm sorry, but raising baby chicks, neither one of us really have time for that. And with Rocco now that we have him, I think it would just be a nightmare trying to raise chickens in a house with a dog. He's good outside, but I don't know about in the house. So, and we have 4 cats too. So it's just too much. So we have breeders that have year-old hens that we can purchase, and that's what we'll do. So the coop that I'm going to get, I think I figured it out, should hold about 20 hens. We're never going to have 20 all at once, but this year coming up, we're going to definitely have to get probably 2. Yeah, I think we're just going to get 2 because they'll pretty much lay every day because they'll be 1-year-old. So, and it's only the 2 of us that eat the eggs. Any extras I would give to my mother-in-law, but for the most part, we only need a couple eggs a day, and that's fine. I do a lot of baking in the winter because it helps keep the house warm and cuts down on the heat bill. Even though we have gas heat, still helps out. So I don't bake that often in the summer because it's just too hot, and we have air conditioners that run, and I don't want to interfere with that energy. So keep that in mind. Like, how many eggs are you going to want to consume in a week? How big is your family? That's going to depend on how many chicks you get, or hens. If you don't want to raise baby chicks, you can go find a breeder that there's got to be a breeder in your area that has 1-year-old hens that you can get. And I think they're like $20. This is December of 2024. So if you watch this later, the prices might change. But I think I only paid $20 for the 2 new hens that we got last year in 2023. And I think they're still the same. Oh, and the feed. Okay, so big bag of feed. I believe it's a 50-pound bag from the breeder well, she's a breeder too, but from the farm that we get the feed from is $25. Now, I haven't bought feed at Tractor Supply in forever because I don't like what they put in their feed. So I think it's about the same price. Not positive. I guess I'll put it up here. I'll look it up online and see what it is, and I'll put it up here. So the price of the chickens are, you need to water them. So whether you have city water and you pay for your water, you're probably going to have to pay for that water. Or if you decide to buy bottled water for your chicks because you want them to be healthier, think of that. You have to pay for the water to feed your chicks. You have to buy the feed for your chicks. And in the beginning, it's going to be chicken feed. I forget what they call them when they're babies. But anyways, you're going to have to get a different feed for when they're babies, and then a layer feed when they start laying eggs, which is like 26 weeks, I think. So again, we're never doing babies again. So just keep that in mind. You'll have to switch feed if you get babies and raise them to be hens. You're going to need pine shavings. A lot of people are using hemp shavings now, and there's all this other stuff that you can use. To me, pine shavings are the cheapest. They're the easiest to buy, and they work great. There's no reason to not use pine shavings. You're going to need straw for the nesting boxes because, they like to move the straw around to make a nice little nest for them to lay their eggs in. So let's see, water, food, pine shavings, straw. You're going to need to get some of that diatomaceous earth. Oh man, I'm destroying that name. I'll put it up here again. Or First Lime Saturday. I'll put a link to that up here. Well, I'll put the link to buy it in the description, but it's called this. And you're going to need to buy a coop. You're going to need to have a covered run. You're going to need to have a bigger run if possible, if you have enough space. Or come outside and do free ranging with your chicks at least a half an hour a day if you can, because they really need to get out and run around. Now, we have an in-ground pool, and they stay away from the pool. So don't worry about that. If you have a pool, you don't have to worry about your chicks being around the pool. They'll be fine. If you have a bird feeder, they're going to go straight to the bird feeder because they know that the birds drop the feed down onto the ground, and they'll eat that too. So, and this is the best part of having chickens. If you have a garden in the ground, not in raised beds so much, but if you have a garden in the ground and you need to till that land, I don't believe in tilling your land, but if you need to get rid of all that old growth that you have or weeds or anything like that to get prepared for the season, let your chicks free range in that area because they will rip all that out for you. A lot of gardeners, a lot of farmers. There's a farmer that I watch on YouTube that does this. He has a chicken tractor, which is like an enclosed area, and he moves it with the chicks over his fields, and they basically rip up all the old growth and vegetables that he was growing so that he doesn't have to till his land, and he doesn't destroy those microorganisms that are down in the soil. So he gets better growth and better production from his gardens and fields because of the chickens cleaning it up for him. So that's definitely a plus because you don't need to till your land. All you got to do is let the chickens go out and destroy it for you. And they do that. So keep that in mind as well. If you have plants or shrubs or anything around your house, if you leave them out there too long, they will destroy them if you let them get to it. We had some blueberry bushes that we put in. I had to get galvanized edger to go around my plants to keep them out because they were ripping the top of the blueberry plants, the roots. Blueberry plants have very shallow roots, and they were ripping at them. So keep that in mind also. If you want to keep your lawn looking pretty nice, keep an eye on where you let your chickens free range. And that's another thing, they're going to poop wherever they want. Great for your landscaping and great for your grass. But if you got little kids, they're going to be stepping on chicken poop every once in a while. And like Rocco, he likes to eat it, which makes him sick. So we have to be careful, like where we let them free range and how often we let them free range. So I think that's pretty much it. Let me show you the whole setup out there, bigger area. So again, this is their covered run. It's basically 88 feet, because each fence is 8 feet and there's 11 sections, so that's 88. So it's 88 feet down, and it's probably, well, there's a fence right there, so it's like 3 feet wide. Well, probably 3.5, 4 feet wide actually. And again, the pallets down there are to keep the chicks from ripping up the roots. And that little bush down there is actually a weed that I just let grow, and they love it in the summer. They sit under it and it keeps them nice and cool. So this is what the coop looks like. Yeah, let's see here. Get this off of here. So this is what the coop looks like from their coop side. That's their dusting bath area down here. And again, that tarp is over it because the coop is a piece of crap. So I don't recommend buying one from them. So this is their covered run coop area. So that is the whole area that they have to play with, well, to be in. And this section right here, I can't see, this section right here is going to be the new coop area. I have to build off of that. I'm going to build a lean-to off of that. So, oh, and this is that hose I was talking about. When it's warm, it just automatically comes on and fills up that bowl. So, to my friend who requested this video, I hope you got something out of this. I hope I didn't forget anything. If I did, oh, actually, yeah, there is one more thing. You need to find out in your town if you're even allowed to have chicks, because these are not considered pets. So they're considered farm animals. So if you get attached and you get your chickens, and there's a bus driving by, hopefully that wasn't too loud. And if you get your chickens and then you find out that you're not allowed to have them, you cannot keep them. You can't fight the town unless you get enough people together to fight the town to allow chickens in your area. But until you get that fight approved and you can have chickens, you're not going to be able to have them while you're doing the fight. They're going to make you get rid of your chickens. So don't get attached to your chickens, and don't get chickens until you are absolutely positive that you can have them, or you don't have nosy neighbors. I didn't know if we could have chicks. I just knew that our neighbor had chicks, and I heard a rooster up the street. So I just assumed, which was a bad idea. I do know now that we can have them, and we're only allowed up to, like, I don't know, 10 or something like that. But just keep that in mind. Check your regulations in your town, not in just your state, in your town, to make sure that you're allowed to have backyard chickens. Because again, they're considered livestock, not pets. And if there's an avian flu outbreak in your area, they can come make you put all your chickens down. So keep that in mind as well. So it can be a little heartbreaking owning chickens, because they only live like 5 to 7 years, and you may have to call them if you don't want to take them to a vet to have them euthanized. And there are some sicknesses that you probably need to do some research also to find out what sicknesses they could have, how to treat them, because a lot of vets don't even treat chickens. Like, I have to go to a special vet in my area to treat my chickens. So, or treat them myself. Like, mine have had bumblefoot. It's like this growth on the bottom of their foot, and it's easy to take care of. But you can have like a hen that's been a hen that has she's egg bound. So you have to treat that. Those are simple things that you have to do. Oh, and we had a chick where her whole hind came out. So that's why we had to have her put down, because yeah, her rectum fell out. So yeah, keep that in mind. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with chickens as well. Oh, and treats. Sorry, there's another thing, treats. In the winter and in the summer, but mostly in the winter, you want to make sure that you give them extra protein treats to help keep them healthy and warm in the winter. So there's a lot. There's a lot that you need to learn with chickens. This is just a basic overview. I could go into some serious in depth with a lot of different things that you need to know when you have chickens. But for now, we're just going to keep it basic. Again, it was water, food, shelter, protection. Those are the main four things that you need to worry about, and how many chickens you need, depending on the amount of eggs that you eat for your family, for your size, and for the size of your family and your family. So hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too long. I'm going to have to go edit this and figure out how long it is and try and shorten it, because I think it's kind of long. And as you can see, Rocco got cold. I had to take him in, but he gets along with the chickens just fine. So if you have dogs, just got to train them. And hopefully we'll see you on the next video, and you'll come on down the shore.